So, here we are outside Glasgow Women's Library.
Yeah,
I'm just
great,
so excited.
thank you. Well, thanks for bringing me.
I'm just really excited to show you around the place, and it's fantastic. It's not a very great day. It's a bit bleak and rainy and wet, but inside it's so warm and it's so comforting and lovely. I hope you're going to like it as much as I do.
I think I'm going to like it. I was sort of shocked, I guess, by the location a little bit. I came down the street and I thought, am I in the right place? Then I saw the artwork and obviously the big sign, and I thought, yes. And the lovely carvings all along the building. It's a very grand building, isn't it? Like, it doesn't match the rest of the street. I think it stands out nicely.
Yes, you kind of would never suspect that there was this trove of treasures at the end of a wee street like this, Landressy Street. I mean, the flagpole is pretty extraordinary. So if you see that big flagpole sticking out, you get a bit of an indication that you're in for something special.
Yeah, don't you?
And this sandstone is pretty opulent and delicious looking. These pillars and columns, it's really extraordinary. But it's the last thing that you expect at the end of this wee street. I mean, you've just got wee parked cars here. You've got a newsagent's at the bottom of the street. You've got a kind of run-down, broken-down car park straight opposite us, and then you've got a whole load of flats around us, modern flats mixed with old red sandstone. So it's a real mixture of an area, Bridgeton, and the last thing you'd think is here. I mean, people come out of their way to get here.
Yeah, and it's nice being a wee bit opulent because it makes you feel a bit special when you're coming in. I like that as well. And my mum's been telling me to come here for years, but the only thing I know about it is that she's been in last year to check that they've got my book.
Good for her. Well, I came in here the other day with my mum, and it was great because I got her in the wheelchair, no bother, just up this ramp here,
isn't it?
And straight through the doors, and the whole place felt fantastic for her in her wheelchair, which is actually quite tricky to find places that are really accessible.
Yeah, I bet it is. All right, let's go in.
Shall we go?
Yeah.
Let's go. I'm Jackie Kay, the Scots Macker, National Poet of Scotland. And today I'm with Hollie McNish, one of my best loved fellow poets at my favourite museum, the Glasgow Women's Library. We're looking at a number of glass shelves, and on these glass shelves are various different old booklets and leaflets, all relating to things like women's oppression and class, Dyke's Disability and Stuff, I Am Your Sister, Black Women Organising Across Sexualities by Audre Lorde. And I remember that. I mean, that's an amazing pamphlet to have available. That's 1985. I've got that in my house.
Have you?
Yeah, I've got that one in my house. She was a really good friend of mine, Audre Lorde. But it's really unusual to get to see that. I mean, these are all worth an awful lot of money now, because some of these old feminist, I guess you might not even call it memorabilia, but archives really are so hard to get hold of now that people collect them, like collecting old badges from the 70s.
It's such a good thing to have as soon as you come in, isn't it? Because you realise it's about all women, basically. It's very inclusive, like as soon as you walk in and look at it.
So already before we're even into the main, we're in the lobby really, the rather posh lobby, but we're in the lobby, and already even in the lobby before we've gone through the main doors of the library, we get a sense of the library's personality. Hello, I'm Jackie Kay.
And I'm Hollie McNish. And this is
Meet Me at the Museum.
Hello.
I didn't want to interrupt you in the middle of that. I just went,
I've just bumped into Alison Thewlis, basically, who, wow, I just think you're brilliant.
yeah. I think you're brilliant as well. I kind of walked in there and went, what's going on? And why is Hollie McNish outside the library? That's quite strange. So I'm Alison Thewlis, MP for Glasgow Central, and I've just had my surgery across the other road and popped in to hand in a surgery poster.
So I'm about to go in. Jackie Kay's introducing me to it, kind of for the first time. It sounds a bit like a date question, but do you come here often? Just wondering.
Oh, I come here as often as I can. I love it. It used to be just an ordinary library, and there was always a kind of wee crew of people who would come in and have cups of tea and hang out, and now it feels as though people are coming from much further, but it's just as homely and it's lovely, and you go in and people give you cups of tea and you can sit and pick your way through whatever books are there or chat away, and it's just really nice and really welcoming all the time.
I've heard a lot of mention of the tea so far. I'm sort of looking forward to that.
Well, I got as far as the desk there, handed in the poster, and somebody offered me a cup of tea.
It makes you feel so welcome, doesn't it? Because sometimes people are intimidated by spaces. Well, any sort of art spaces or any spaces really to go into. So the idea that people are like, as soon as you get in, do you want a cup of tea? It's like, oh, great. Nice to bump into you.
from the outside wouldn't have a clue that there is an upstairs to this library, and it's sort of another big surprise, because you come in up the stairs and you go through these double wooden doors into the community room.
Nice. I'll open them for you. That's massive up here, isn't it?
This was the men's reading room.
Oh yeah, the gentleman's reading room. So where was the ladies' reading room, as they called it? What bit was that?
That was downstairs in the office where we see people working, so it's much, much smaller.
Isn't it? And this is it's such a lovely place to sit. Just massive windows.
And they in 1906 would have had an altogether different view out of this window than the view that we have right now, which is of all these different really modern-looking pinkish coloured brick flats. I really love and feel passionate about Glasgow Women's Library. It's one of my favourite places and one of my favourite museums and libraries anywhere in the country. And I'm partly passionate about it because it's the only place, Hollie, in the whole of the UK that is absolutely committed to preserving women's history. And so in this library, you'll find all sorts of things that have been hidden from view. They might have been in plain sight, but people don't know about them and they're hidden from view. And so you keep coming across one surprise after another, and you realise just how skewed history has been for us. And I really admire the commitment and creativity of all the people that are involved in this project, because I knew them from their earliest incarnation in their first building. So just to see them finally to get these absolutely magnificent premises and to just be here, sat next to you, I really wanted to share the place with you because I knew that you hadn't been before, and I knew it would be a first time, because I really admire your poetry. You're one of my favourite poets because you're passionate about writing about women and motherhood. I just thought you'd love it.
I can't think of a better way to be brought here for the first time than by you, because I feel exactly the same. And I sometimes I'm stupidly funny about going to museums, but it's just so lovely and welcoming from the minute that you come in, isn't it? And so different. It's just shocking to think it is the only place in the UK dedicated to that. Yeah, writing so much about being a woman and women's history, and I'm surrounded by such brilliant women and men talking about women's history, that sort of stepping outside that world and realising how skewed it is. So the idea of coming in here, like just the amount that I could learn in here, I think is so exciting, fascinating. Hiya.
Hi Jackie, hi Hollie. My name's Gabrielle. Welcome to Glasgow Women's Library. I am the volunteer coordinator here, and I'm going to tell you a bit more about Glasgow Women's Library.
Oh, I like your t-shirt.
Thank you so much.
What's it say?
Sisterhood is powerful.
Sisterhood is powerful. It's perfect.
I was really interested to know about this building from the outside, because I know that it used to be the library and there was a kind of a women's room and a men's room, reading room and so on. But I'm just wondering about the period and the whole look of the place, if you could tell us just a little bit about the building.
Yeah, I can. So yeah, you're right. It was built as a library in, I think, 1906. It was one of the Carnegie Foundation libraries. And it's quite imposing, but hopefully not in a scary way. What we really want is for people to feel welcome and get them to come in. But yeah, so it's an old building in a street of otherwise, quite newly built houses. But the inside of the library, we've kept quite a lot of the original features.
And I especially love these windows because they're so beautiful. I love windows inside buildings where you can see through to other parts of the building, because it gives you the impression that you're getting to see something that you maybe shouldn't be seeing. I mean, there's everybody at work in the office, and there's just something very beautiful about these arched windows. And against that lovely dark wood, there's these beautiful semicircles. But right under the window, and on this wooden floor, we've got this intriguing part of an exhibition and artwork here by Hannah Leighton Boyce, and it's kind of really pretty difficult to describe. I'll leave that to you.
Hannah is an artist who did a residency with us. And one of the things that I remember Hannah doing a lot was sitting with us at lunch at the round table that's behind me, where we sit and have our cups of tea and chat. And I think she's reproduced the circle with these circles of jars.
I think I'm not so experienced in come into museums, I don't think, if I'm being perfectly honest. And I'm always quite intimidated when I come into spaces and there's art that I don't understand. I don't want to ask because it looks really rude.
I can say some stuff about it.
Yeah, I'd love
because this particular piece of work, which you can see in front of us, is basically lots and lots of jars that are a kind of turquoisey colour, and these wires connecting them all in circles, a circle within a circle within a circle within a circle, connected by red, yellow and white electrical wires. And they're made of copper and zinc and salt. One of the ways to interpret it is that everything is connected, and the two artists actually both worked with salt in different ways. The way that salt works in the human body, the way that when you cry salt tears, but that we need salt. When you sweat, you sweat salt. When you're a mother, the other artist did a lot of work around motherhood, but they're basically responding through these elements really to our world. And this I find particularly inspiring and exciting because it's just like we're all connected.
And it's still reacting though. Like there's a chemical reaction going on.
If you stand over them, you might hear them. You might hear them fizz.
Oh really?
What I like about them is that they're generating a current and they're powering this strip of LED lights and.
Oh, they're powering the lights.
Yeah, so they're all generating this. They're a current, and I quite like the thought that it kind of can symbolise the team and everyone who's involved with Glasgow Women's Library, because we are all generating our little current and working together to kind of power something that's bigger.
So the current's just coming from them. Well, I love the fact that there's no barrier, but I like the fact that you can sort of go and, like you're saying about the fizzing. That I'm probably going to get down on my knees in a minute and try and listen to it. Oh yeah, you can. When I was pregnant, salt and rocks and metal, all these like sort of, I guess, elements of the earth, I had sort of a craving for them. So the idea that this is here, it makes me want to, if I'm honest, like lick the salt off the top.
There's no barrier.
I won't do it. When I started reading my own poems, I was too intimidated to go through the door of the Poetry Cafe in London. And then when I went into it for the first time, this when I was 25, I wasn't, young. I saw that the poetry reading was downstairs, but because I couldn't see what was downstairs and there was not a sign that said, come in, like everybody can come here, you're allowed to come to a poetry reading, I didn't go down. So that was like the next hurdle. And then even after I'd been reading poems in theatres and different artsy sort of spaces for a couple of years, when I went to a poetry gig that I was headlining at, when the woman on the door told me it was like £7 to get in, I panicked and paid to get into my own gig because I was still intimidated by these places, and it's so silly. Like,
you paid for your own gig.
I paid for my own gig, and then the organiser of the event saw me doing it, which made it even worse, shouted, Hollie, what are you doing? Have you just paid to come in? I was like, I didn't know what to do. And I didn't want to say, oh, excuse me, actually I'm headlining, because I felt like an idiot saying something like that. So yeah, I just think anything that tells people that you can come into a place is important.
Yeah, we want to make art accessible, and in fact, between these two pillars, when we moved in, there was a massive counter that was there from when the library was used. It was the council library, and we whipped it out straight away because we're just like, everything that we do is about making things more accessible, and whether so it's thinking about like literally physical access, or what does having a barrier communicate to people. In fact, thinking back to our history, right, our origins was about making art and culture accessible to more people, and that not only that people should be going and enjoying art and culture, but producing it regardless of their background. And I think hopefully things have changed, but there's still,
I think
there's
changed.
still are barriers to...
Yeah. That's to me what Glasgow Women's Library is. It's a place that breaks down the barriers and the disciplines and the boundaries and the borders and the rigid lines that we have between one thing and another, So that's one of the reasons I absolutely love this place and wanted to introduce it to you, Hollie.
Nice. Every time I do a gig and it's got I find if it's got the word women in the title, I don't see a lot of men coming in. Maybe that's changing, but in my circles of like family and stuff, it's that sort of stereotype that if it's got women in it.
But that's, I think it's important to change that, isn't it? You know, we've had to learn about men's history our whole lives, and that is still like the default in terms of like what we learn at history or history of art or literature, and women's contributions are as important as vital. And boys need to grow up learning that women have done and are doing amazing things, and so I think it's as important for girls and boys to know about the wide range of women's achievements and contributions to culture and art and science and everything.
I'm really excited to bring my daughter here now because I'm desperate for her not to, I guess, see it with my grandma and then my mum, like every generation we've sort of learned more and more of like the real history, I'd say, and the real side of literature and the real, more diverse, more equal side of things like that. She's 9.
Oh.
She's 9 now, and I just think I just don't want her to have a 95% male white curriculum anymore. So the idea of bringing her into here to choose a book from here would be lovely, which I'll do the next time I'm up.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that's really fantastic, because there's so many writers, women writers collected here and from all around the world, and it's the one time you don't really feel underrepresented as a black Scottish writer. Not that there's loads of black Scottish writers here, actually, but there's loads of black women writers from all over the world here, which makes you feel like you're not being excluded, that you're part of something.
That you can breathe out. It's so easy to find. It's like everything just being there without having to hoard through pages.
I know, but it made me think, God, if I'd had this place when I was a child, my whole childhood would have been very different. Because when I had to kind of take any kind of racist abuse or whatever, and I'd go home and tell my mum about it, if she'd had a place like this to bring me, where there's all the, did you see that children's book of Maya Angelou, that part of that series? And
brilliant.
I mean, where there's all sorts of positive role models and positive ways of looking at your own identity. It would have been a whole different childhood. It would have been a whole different experience. And you're a wee girl's my colour, isn't she? Around my colour. So she's going to get a whole different sense of, of coming here. So I kind of like that.
Yeah, I like it as well. And it's so not tiring, because obviously you do it, but it's just a bit depressing. Everything you buy everything I buy, I can't speak for everyone, but I imagine your mum was quite similar. But whenever you go into a toy store or a bookstore or the the library near me, we go to the library all the time. And I used to love it before she picked out her own book, because I could cherry pick ones with
black
a little girl.
Kids of colour.
Yeah, exactly. And coming into here, it would just be brilliant for that to be normal, that to just be the norm.
So we're in the main room here where they have events. It's a huge, big room, really, really beautiful. And it's very thrilling for me, or exciting, because it's one of my poems on the wall here that went with this exhibition.
I didn't know it was yours. How exciting.
From the exhibition with Hannah Leighton Boyce and Ruth Barker.
Amazing.
And because these two artists had such an affinity with each other, and they started to work very different approaches, but around the connections, really. I thought I would write three different poems all called Affinity. And so this one was the first one, and it was really about somebody who feels bipolar, who feels that they're feeling one way 1 minute and the other way the next minute.
I just love it that it's on the wall. I love it when poetry comes out of a book, whether that's in a reading or online or whatever, but I love public art that's got it. There's so many big poems in Buildings on Sheffield by Simon Armitage, and I love them, and I just like it. I like public art like that. I think poetry should be all over the place.
I'll just read a wee bit of this poem, because the voice is particularly Glaswegian.
I can see it, but I can do it myself.
It was because I was high yesterday that I had to come down the day. That's the way of it. 1 minute you're all smiley, killing yourself. Next you're killing yourself. Like a big bairn, greeting salty tears pouring down your cheeks in the rain. You're sinking, and you try and say yin and yang. You try and say it's no that black and white. It's all the in-betweens. But at night you could down and wait for the morning. But it doesn't come any time soon. But one thing, you're no alone, Ken. Others hear the same thing in the swing.
Beautiful. Huh?
It's easier to read the whole thing than to stop myself there. And right here, there's a photograph by Ruth Barker. So she's the other artist, and she had terrible postnatal depression straight after she had her baby, and she was shocked by that. She hadn't expected to have it. So in this photograph, she's breastfeeding, and in this one, she's kind of erased herself, because the idea behind this was that motherhood initially for her was an erasure. It made her feel invisible.
Well, for so many people as well, isn't it? That's something that's, well, it's just only starting, I think, to be talked about more and more in public. Yeah, so there's 2 photographs, aren't there, that are just the same, but one of them's sort of ripped up more, and it's the mother, the woman, the artist, Ruth, breastfeeding her baby, and she's, well, naked from the top up anyway, and staring. I think she's staring at herself in the camera. She's taken the picture, and the little baby, as little babies are, is just calmly drinking. Whereas, there's obviously a lot of different thoughts going through the mother's head, whereas the babies are always, well, fine about all of this. I love the fact that she's left in the fact that it's a selfie. And because she could have easily, like a lot of people do when they take a selfie of themselves, try and chop their arm out so it somehow looks like someone else has shot it. Especially because motherhood, I think a lot of the time the mum doesn't get a picture taken of them with the baby. It's been talked about quite a lot, and that you're sort of on your own a lot. So all these things that you did with your kid at first, they're often not documented. So I love that about it. Like writing about motherhood and lots of things to do with becoming a mum. I guess it's kind of young mum I get classed as, but I was 20, 26, I don't know. But I don't think I realised, maybe because I'm not that well read, to be honest. I've read a lot, but I used to read factual books. So in terms of like fiction, I don't think I'm as well read as maybe I should be, or I'm not sure. So when people did start relating to the poems about motherhood and saying, oh, it's not a really written about topic, I think it shocked me. Like, I don't think I realised that there was this gap in a lot of writing about motherhood, or poetry about motherhood. And actually when I was trying to get the book published, or the agent who wanted it to be published didn't really know why she so wanted it to be published, and people were coming back saying, oh, but if you're going to have a book about motherhood, it's a how-to guide that sells, like these sort of parenting guides about, I don't know, how to feed your kid. But poetry and motherhood mixed was just a sort of no-go area.
So this I find really fascinating, because it's a model house made by South Asian women in Glasgow that came here between the 1950s and the 1970s, mostly from the Punjab. And they came here and they missed home, and they felt that kind of, that nostalgia. And so they set up this extraordinary project at Glasgow Women's Library to recreate their home. And so the women all worked together. They're all elderly women, and they all worked together to create this. And it's pretty fantastic. But Hollie, what do you see?
I'm a wee bit obsessed with sort of dolls' houses and things. What I love about it is that it's open-topped, because I can't stand it really when you get things like this and you can't see in it. So it's a house, and you can just peer from the top, covered in glass, and you can see everything going on inside it, sort of spy on the different rooms. So there's the bedrooms, and then I don't know what this room is over here, like a storeroom, a pantry, I imagine. Little boxes of lentils, bags of rice, and then the main sort of living space. And then is that, if I peer over the top, are those animals in there? Yeah, they are, aren't they? I love the fact that the women are all sitting round together, chatting, I imagine. The details that I love, all these sort of plates and gold vases and things in the bedroom, and down to the washing hanging up. You wrote a poem. Was the poem based on the house, or was the poem based on talking to the women themselves?
The poem was based on the house, and then reading about the experience, it inspired me, the idea of these older women coming together to recreate home. I've always been fascinated as a writer with notions of home and what home means, if it's where the heart is or if it's not.
So Model House, Glasgow, by Jackie Kay. Carry your home in your head, your heart, and make it again with your mind's eye. Lay out the panday, hang up the pada, look at your smiling face in the shisha. The patang, the bolti, the barrier. Covers on the manji brightly there. Home is what the heart remembers. Here you are, back safe. September. And the Boué Kua Kare. Everything is as it should be. You see the goat in the Malkama, and now you don't forget to remember. You build the ping, you climb the puri, you drill the window, you paint the walls, you hang your washing on the rassi. Nothing's been forgotten at all. I think so often, with stories of migration and movement, people always seem to forget that there was a life before. As if, I think it's that arrogance of like why people assume somebody might have moved country, and they forget that there was a happiness before, and there was a life, and there were friends, and there was, all the little details are so important. There was washing hung up, there were conversations, there was chatting, there was family, there was life, there were friends. I think that's what struck me about this.
That's nice. Well, that's exactly what I wanted to try and capture.
Hi, my name's Jenny Noble and I'm the museum curator here at Glasgow Women's Library.
So it's really nice of you to talk to us, Jenny, and I'm just really interested to know what you love about this place.
Where to start? I was desperate to work here from the moment I set foot in the place, and I spent 2 years waiting for a job to come up. So when I saw the position of museum curator, I jumped at it, and I feel really privileged to be here. And the archives and museum collections are absolutely amazing. There's so much to see here, and I love the approach that everything we do here utilises the collections in some way, whether it's artists being inspired by them, whether it's women improving their literacy skills, and whether they're taking part in crafty workshops or developing drama sessions or just boosting their confidence in different ways, or actually helping us to work with the collections themselves. There's just so much going on here. It's just a really exciting place to be. But you can see here we've got these lovely new display units. They've just been with us for about a fortnight.
Oh, nice. Yeah, they are very spanking brand new, aren't they?
Yeah, because they're Clause 28. Do you remember Clause 28?
No.
You're probably too young for Clause 28. So we've got one of these lovely light wood display cabinet, which really kind of looks like a chest of drawers. And inside there's 3 different leaflets. And the middle one says, Clause 28, Legalised Prejudice? ? Friday 29th April, 7 o'clock. And that's an event at Lambeth Town Hall, SW2. Section 28 was a law brought in by Margaret Thatcher's Conservative government in 1988, which said that local authorities shall not intentionally promote homosexuality or publish material with the intention of promoting homosexuality or promote the teaching of the acceptability of homosexuality as a pretended family relationship. And the fight against Section 28 was one of the most fiercely fought lesbian and gay rights campaigns in British history. The new Scottish Government, then the Scottish Executive, abolished Section 28 in 2000, and the UK Labour Government followed in 2003. Now, it's really interesting to me here that the thing that you learn is it took a whole 3 years.
That's exactly what I was thinking about, Scotland leading the way. Again, it happens quite a lot in social issues, I think. It sort of brings it to life, doesn't it, seeing something like this, all the leaflets for the actual events going on.
Yeah, I think the great thing about our collections are that they are gathered from everyday folk. So they do represent the grassroots movements that are happening all over the country. So obviously we're a Glasgow organisation, we're based here, but our collections do take in women from across Scotland and actually further afield, sometimes into the UK and even international if it links into here.
But also just round the corner here, there's a whole lesbian archive. It's really amazing, and it's full of books, novels, poetry, plays, non-fiction by lesbians from all over the world. And there's also several lovely coloured green boxes here, a pale minty green really, that look quite classy, and they're full of duplicate copies of various different magazines, from Spare Rib to Conditions 5 to all of the rest of the different magazines that lesbians like to read in the 70s and 80s. And a lot of it takes me really back, because it's actually like looking at my bookshelves from home. So I've got a bloody lesbian archive at home, because it's really funny. And so I remember a lot of the titles here are exactly ones that I had, because when I was a young lesbian on the block and a young lesbian mum on the block, there weren't that many other women that I met that also had kids, and so books were real company and solace, companionship.
And that's something that's echoed by a lot of people that come in here. they do have a look, and a lot of women feel the same way about the book titles when they see them. There's always some that bring back memories or comfort to them of maybe difficult times or challenging times. So yeah, it's great.
So would a lot of these books not have been in libraries or just been so hard to find? Or a bit of both?
Yeah, a lot of them would be almost impossible to find unless you went into a specialist feminist bookshop like Sister Right or Silver Moon, or a bookshop that had a big feminist section like Compendium, or today's alternative bookshops like the Lighthouse in Edinburgh, or the Golden Hare. You had to really, really look for alternative books and to hear alternative stories. It's now, I think, easier to get your hands on books like this, but actually then in the late 70s, early 80s, you really had to search.
Yeah, imagine, like, the lesbian parenting book, without internet, I guess I've sort of forgotten the idea of looking for books without being able to just find whatever you want online and having to go into places.
So this is one of my favourite books because she's one of my favourite singers, Bessie Smith, the blues singer. Bessie had lots of lesbian relationships, but she had a passionate affair with her husband Jack's niece, and she travelled about the country in her own Pullman train. Anyway, I remember reading a biography of her when I was 14 and coming across this kind of black lesbian that had sex in her own train. I was like, what? How cool is that?
That's not the standard story that you were hearing at that time, was it? I just love the fact that as soon as you put lesbian writers together, stories about lesbians together, that like any group that's been stereotyped, it's so nice to just see the diversity of titles. It's like from War of Words to, like you're saying, the sort of funnier titles to Understanding Cystitis. I'd quite like to read that one myself. Finally, there's the book.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing about the Lesbian Archive is it's really wide-reaching, and sometimes people are surprised. Maybe it's not all just about lesbian sex. It's not at all. It's about people's lives.
It's ridiculous, though, isn't it? That would be the first thing. Is it?
Yes, but where is the lesbian sex? Shall we go through now, I think, and see the store, the archive, because this is where all the stuff is kept that people have to make an appointment to book to come and see.
Oh, so you can still see it, though?
You can still see it, and you can still get it out. You can still make an appointment to get that stuff out, can't you, Jenny?
Yes, we often have researchers like today, as I say, we've brought material out with an appointment that was made in advance so that people can sit and take their time to look through material that interests them. But we also do tours of the store as well. So if we have a group of visitors in, some of our staff or volunteers will very often allow access to the store so that people get a peek behind the scenes as well. So do you want to pop through now?
Yeah, love to. Thanks.
Okay, so this is our fully archivally controlled archive store.
I was not expecting it to look so organised and...
Thank you very much. This is the first time that the Glasgow Women's Library has actually had a proper archive store in its existence. So it's just great. We've got proper roller shelving here, and we've got archival standard boxes. It's kept to a constant temperature, and the humidity levels are checked as well, so that we can look after the collections to the best of our abilities.
Yeah, 'cause there's clothes and paintings and pictures and posters and more houses and picket signs, and it's amazing, isn't it? I can see boxes upon boxes, but it looks very neatly organised, and I can see clothes, a Rise Up Woman book, other model houses as well, which is lovely. But mainly, so turning to one side, we've got the clothes and t-shirts, and I don't know if is that a nurse's uniform, or is it
Yeah, that's a very special nurse's uniform. It was worn during the opening ceremony of the Olympics, so Danny Boyle's tribute to the NHS.
Oh, really?
And it was worn by one of the roller derby players, so she was wearing skates at the same time as she had the nurse's uniform on.
Oh, I've actually got my roller skates up with me while I'm here. And lots of placards, painted placards and flags. And then on the other side, it's the written store, is it? What are the boxes full of?
The boxes are full of everything. So we have archival material, papers relating to campaigns like the Scottish Abortion Campaign, Zero Tolerance. We've got papers relating to individual women. We have got books which are maybe rarer or more significant that we want to look after more carefully than just having them in the lending library. We've got suffragette postcards and jewellery. We have knitting patterns.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. I think it's amazing in here because just the idea of women's work finally being taken properly seriously and this archive being kept properly in proper archive boxes, proper temperature, the whole lot. So, Holly, what's your thoughts on the Glasgow Women's Library? Is it somewhere you'd want to come back to?
Yeah, it's somewhere that I'm going to stay now and actually not leave for a little while, because genuinely I've never been somewhere where women is the default and there's so many different sections within that. It's always been in a place where this is the women's section, whereas the whole thing's the women's section, and it's just lovely. So I'm basically going to have another cup of tea. I've had about 4 already, but I'm going to have another cup and just sit here for a while longer.
Oh, fantastic.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for bringing me.
It's been a total pleasure showing you around, and it's just been lovely. And it's funny because when you come here, whether you're young, whether you're a girl, whether you're an older woman, whatever, it's very empowering. You leave buzzing because you feel like a whole load of other women have clapped you.
Yeah, it does feel like that. Thanks.
It's applause.
And that there's so much that I don't know about. It's also made me feel like that. Like the lesbian archive is like, I don't know about that, and I'd like to read more of that. And the model house, I don't know what it's like to be a migrant woman. So all the different things as well, it's made me want to learn more. But it's also made me love Glasgow a wee bit more. Like my parents are from Glasgow, and this is added to my sort of romanticism of the city, I think.
Fantastic.
Thanks for listening to me, Hollie McNish.
And me, Jackie Kay, at the Glasgow Women's Library.
This was Meet Me at the Museum. Please like and subscribe to the podcast.
Don't forget, if you've got an art pass, you can get free entry or discounts in museums all around the country.